All right, it being 9:01, let's call the Wednesday, January 13th meeting of the Human Resources Committee to order.
I was driving, I didn't pay attention.
Oh my God, the sunrise was so beautiful.
All right, could we have a roll call of who's here?
Oh, I wish I could have seen it.
You've lost control
We've
already.
lost control. We're starting our meeting now, please. Could we call attendance?
Allen,
Allen, present.
Bates,
Bates present.
Davist,
Davist here.
Igbo, Kenyon,
Kenyon here.
Lewis,
Blair, can you see, is Iqbal or Lewis online? Mo, are you with us?
Yeah, he's here. It says connecting to audio.
Okay, super. All right, could we have a motion for the approval of minutes of November 20th and December 9th?
I would move it.
Kenyon first,
I'll second. Allen seconds.
Allen seconds. Any discussion on the minutes, any corrections? A roll call on that, please.
Allen,
Allen, aye, and no corrections, but Cliff, I think I appreciate that you gave background information, and continuing to do that is a good idea.
Thank you so much. I miss seeing you.
Bates,
Bates, aye, and I appreciate the explanations also very much.
Thank you, Mavis.
Davist,
Davist, yes. With a sticky mute button.
Igbo, Kenyon,
Kenyon, yes.
Beautiful. Public comments, I don't see anybody in the room here. Is there anybody online? Okay, if I could just for 1 second, I see Chris Kaios on the Zoomy thing here. And I just wanted to take a minute and apologize. Yesterday, I was very much out of sorts, frustrated with the system. And when I went on a rant with Mr. Tepe to some degree, trying to understand the coronavirus vaccine information that Drew so eloquently pointed out, you have most of the information you're looking for. I did not mean to be as overzealous as I was. And, you know, while it's important, there's a certain decorum, and I probably stepped slightly over the line on that and certainly didn't mean to, trying to get to the best. And, you know, my expectations of a dashboard type situation rather than weekly briefings or monthly briefings. I just wanted to take a minute and at least acknowledge my shortcomings when they arise. So with that said, monthly financials. Do we have anybody from finance on today? All right. Are the monthly financials important? Do we not have those because of Zoom? Are they not?
The financial reports come from Joe Onzig's department, and they're put into Human Services Committee because they're a component of it. But I don't think there's anything alarming, and I really can't respond to why there isn't anybody to talk to them.
Okay, it's Sylvia, if you could get a note back to Joe that if it's going to be on, either remove it from our agenda or show up with a report. Don't
Yes,
care, absolutely don't care either way, ambivalent.
Mr. Chairman, can I,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Allen. Can I just
Hi, Deb.
butt in here?
Yes.
What I wanted to say was this. I was in the elevator with Erica Wagoner, and this is months and months ago. And I asked her if her presence at all of our committee meetings was mandated somewhere, or if she came to let us know when there were problems so that it would be a heads up situation. And she said that what she understood was that the reports would always be provided to us in our packets so that we could, so there was as much transparency as possible, so we could see how the money was being spent, what the percentages were on the budgets and the and payroll and so on. And that she thought that the conversation in the finance department was that if she was there for every meeting, that was a way of keeping county board members involved in the budget process. And she thought that was one of the things that the auditors wanted, was to know that the county board was actively involved. So I'm going to guess that between a combination of people saying to her, why are you showing up if everything is normal, and the pandemic happening, and a lot of every department is trying to work from home, that those combine, that we are provided with the information, but not necessarily with someone to say, here's the heads up problem. Does that help at all?
It does. I mean, if Audrey was to give me a credit card and says, go wild, I would just keep spending. I would like Audrey to every now and again say, hey, what are you spending that on? You know, and I think these reports and having somebody help does keep us all involved. Otherwise, we're just, we're just out of touch. And unless you're on the finance committee, you know what, I'm not sure how involved you are or how important, making sure the numbers work is there. So, and again, I'm not trying to be controversial, just if we have it on the report, should we expect somebody? And if not, let's, just set that expectation. But there seemingly has been a change over the last 3 months. It's different. I'm just asking why. So, and there could be a great reason for it. I'm not, pointing a finger, so. Okay,
Well,
veteran is,
7 minutes and you're already playing in the weeds.
but I like the weeds. I'm a weed whacker, man. It works great.
Debbie, keep us on track.
Veterans Assistant Commission.
Good morning.
Jake, looking good on screen. Look at that popping white shirt and the dark background.
Thank you, sir. We're reporting on the month of November, the last month of the fiscal year of 2020. Our claims, average disability claims are taking 110.5 days, while the VA, the average veteran in Illinois, waited 120.7 days. For pension claims, we are running about 3.5 days faster than the average VA pension claim. In Illinois, 10,987 VA claims pending total, with 129 of those belonging to our office. We filed 13 applications for disability compensation, 1 application for dependency indemnity compensation, another application for survivor's pension, had 5 folks get enrolled in the VA healthcare system, and filed 4 appeals with 91 forms completed total. Our clients received $297,000 in new benefits in the month of November, and it being representing the close of the fiscal year, that brought us to just shy of $4 million total brought in for Kane County veterans, which represents $13.17 for every dollar we had in property taxes, we received in property taxes, we turned that into $13.17 and went directly into the veterans and their dependents' pockets here in Kane County. And that's on top of the $53.7 million that they already received annually. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that the committee has.
Oh, your pie chart didn't seem to magically appear on that one slide.
Mavis, while your voice is very distinct, when you butt in, can you just say Bates here? So we
Bates
know
here.
exactly who it is. Thank you.
Bates here. On this page 11 of the packet, the pie chart is missing, I think.
Oh, the bottom, I'm sorry, the bottom pie chart for financial assistance expenditures. We did not have any expenditures in the month of November. That's why there's no pie chart there.
Good. That's a good reason.
That's a
Thank
really
you.
great answer, yeah.
Bates
Hey,
over
Jake,
and
I do
out.
have 2 questions for you. I read
Sure.
in an article, there was some shakeup at the VA not a shakeup, let me rephrase that. There was some changes made at the VA at a higher level. Did someone step down or something like that? Was that
If
just
you're-
Illinois?
Yeah, in the state of Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, they run 4, soon to be 5 veterans nursing homes that are heavily subsidized by the federal VA. And back starting in November, there was a pretty big outbreak of the coronavirus, which infected 90%, around 90% of the veterans at the LaSalle Veterans Home, which is where we send most of our veterans get referred to for those services if they're looking to get into a state veterans home. It's either them or Manteno. It's about equidistant. There will soon be the Chicago home opening, I think, in February. So 90% of the residents at the LaSalle home were infected with the coronavirus, while 25% of them died between November 1st and the present. There was a preliminary review done by the VA, since that home is funded to the tune of almost $9 million annually by the federal VA. They came in and did a review, I think they called it a infection consultation, found that they were not using the correct hand sanitizer in the facility, and there's a lot of other issues going on there. So the director of that agency did step down on Monday.
Okay, thank you so much. And then is Dale Berman on the line with us at all? Can you see if Dale's on? Dale chairs another committee, and in that committee, he was, as a new board member and a new chairperson, he was going through his description of items that he's responsible for, and in that description was the Veterans Administration. And I serve on that committee and had a discussion with him, just telling him the VA is, in my 2 years chairing human resources, the VA has always reported here. Dale, I don't know. Jake, are you reporting to two committees, or how is it? What are we doing here?
So the county board chairman, so the Veterans Assistance Commission is a unique entity in the fact that we are an independent governmental body that, when established, is required to be funded by the county. So that started in 1935 here in Kane County. So although we have a independent board of directors that basically has operational oversight of the commission, the county board and the county board chairman are able to delegate the fiscal oversight. And as long as I've been here, the county board chairman has delegated that fiscal oversight to the Human Services Committee. That is certainly up to the county board chair if she wishes to maintain that, or wishes to switch to a different committee, but I'm not aware of, I don't report to any other committee that I've been notified of.
Okay, if the minutes could reflect that we brought that up, and offline, Jake, we can make we can have that conversation.
Sure.
And just note that in 1935, wasn't that the first year that Kenyon was sworn in?
It was 18.
I'm sorry, it was 1835.
That was a second
Busting
term.
Kenyon's balls.
Good morning.
You're in the weeds, yes, sir.
I'm gonna eat that one, aren't I?
Yes, they were talking about something that was put in place in 1935. And Cliff.
Too funny. Sylvia, did you have a comment on that? Not on the Kenyon part, on the Veterans Administration part.
It was my understanding that the reason it's in Human Services is because it seemed like this would be a good place for it to sit, and that's all I know historically.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Berman, so.
In
All right.
the past, I think I've seen some documentation in some of the legacy files we have that maybe at one time it was the Public Service Committee that was reported to, but not in the almost 8 years that I've been here.
Chris
Yeah,
Cayos,
public
is
service.
Berman Public Service? You know?
Looking for my mute button. I don't believe so.
He's finance.
Finance.
Finance, okay.
Finance chair.
Nate's here, finance.
Follow the money.
Finance. Follow the money, you got it, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of Tepe then.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Tepe is.
Vern, yes,
it's Vern Tepe. You and I were having that discussion,
there we go, thank you.
and it was because in reading materials about my committee, which I'm relatively new to, it included Veterans Affairs, and I just brought up the question. So,
Okay, as long as you're satisfied with that, we'll just keep rolling as it's been, if that's okay.
I'm satisfied with where it is. You're doing a fine job.
Thank you, Vern, you're the best. Okay, Department of Human Resource Management, Sylvia.
Good morning, everyone. As you can see in your packet, we have the Blue Cross Blue Shield invoice for 11/30/2020. And for the board members that haven't been with us historically and are new, I think it's really important to point out that we continue to trend in a positive, cost-effective way for our statement balance. As you can see, it's 1,260,000. There was a time when we were with IPBC where you could see an invoice that was 1,868,000. And so the positive changes that we've made in, again, assuring that we're mitigating with our employees the importance of them making good choices and maximizing their benefits is something that you will see reflected here because we are self-insured. And so the kinds of constant communications that we're doing with our employees has an impact on what you see here, and getting them to use their gym discounts and their Blue Points with Blue Cross Blue Shield and MD Live is a constant battle, of course, because making them aware of utilizing resources is critically important. And I think before an organization adds additional resources, they have to have quantitative data that substantiates that they have exhausted the resources that they provide for their employees. And I think that we continue to do that, and we are going to seek to continue to do that with our broker and utilize them because they are there for us. And I do believe that in 2021, you will continue to see the trend of Blue Cross Blue Shield move towards a positive impact. And I think that that's very important to share with the board today.
Sylvia, if I can interject at this time, there's two things that I want to point out. And if everybody's looking at this Blue Cross Blue Shield invoice there, the first one is that the dates of this invoice are 11/1 to 11/30. And I'm going to be curious to see how this played out last year to this year.
Correct.
And specifically for next month, when we see the 12/1 to 12/30.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the year, you get this big glut of everybody saying, got to use my services, my deductible's used up, how much money do I have left, blah, 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 blah. I'm anticipating that we could see a spike for next month's bill, but that's not an anomaly.
Correct.
That's something that trends and we see every year at this time. Second thing, if I could point out for everybody that's online and might be new to the committee, it wasn't just 18 months ago when we began this path to say, we're going to pull from the cooperative. And at that time, we had just done, is that what the feedback is? Sorry, thanks. It wasn't just 18 months ago where we were sitting with reserves just under $5 million and challenged a committee of people to say, what's the appropriate reserve amount for a self-retention amount for this county? And we decided on $9 million. And I don't know that I'm smart enough to explain the methodology behind that, but it was great to hear Joe Onsick, not just in finance, but in executive committee, give a report that we are at 7 million of the $9 million goal. And that's a very short period of time to make up that kind of ground. And I mean, I'm anticipating that in the next 24 months, we could actually be at the $9 million reserve goal. And folks, that's just unheard of.
Unheard of.
I mean, so when we say we're doing positive things within this department and this committee, it's quantitative. It's right there in black and white. And for those that are online, the room has filled up because it seems we have 3 members of Human Services that are now in the gallery with us. So.
I heard that Mr. Surgis is missing 1 toe, which is why we stopped at 9.
Because you can only count off your digits, and I get that. I get it. Thank you. And I heard Dale just joined us, and I was wondering if Veterans Administration. That conversation obviously wasn't with Dale. That was with Vern. I'm sorry about that. So Sylvia, please continue.
So again, because we have new members, the Medical Employee Reimbursement Program is a program that we have for employees who have health coverage either with their spouse or with their parents, and it pays for their co-pays and their deductibles. This is something that I think we need to look at 2021 though, because it does have great value, but at the same time in our contract, we also have a differential that we pay to employees for the difference between what they would be paying for their spouse insurance as opposed to being on ours. So I'm looking at this in the first quarter and going to quantify the cost and try to understand better if there is a conversation that needs to be had on how we might continue this, but maybe understand the cost a little bit better. So there'll be more information forthcoming. But currently we have 55 employees that are on this, which is another additional 2 that enrolled, I believe, during open enrollment. And that's all I have on that. And as we move on to,
Sylvia, question?
yes, sir.
Is MERP, first off, I believe MERP is an outstanding benefit that we offer to our
Yes.
employees. Is that something that was derived from a collective bargaining agreement, or was that something that the county put forth itself?
It was something that was birthed in Human Services.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I came 4 years ago, it was already in place. So I didn't.
No, but it's a
I'm not-
great
okay,
program. I'm just
okay.
curious.
And then if we move on to the global financial tracker, as Cliff was saying, this is a graph that I helped and worked with Group Alternatives to put together because in my experience, this is always a visibility that is needed in order for us to really kind of see where our impacts are. And it is here for you to digest. And as you can see, we do tend to continue to track in an absolute positive trend. And these are the kinds of visuals and business intelligence that help us understand if we're on track. Because without the visuals and business intelligence, then we're making decisions that aren't well informed. And this is the kind of tool that I'm accustomed to utilizing. And if you have any insight or feedback, please reach out to me.
I know it's a pretty picture and it could be overwhelming, but we developed this in-house on our own with our consultant to help our needs, to serve our needs. This isn't something that somebody threw at us and said, here, you know what, adapt. We said, build this for us so we can make choices, you know, based on data. So I mean, this is really quite amazing.
Yes. So moving on to job applicants, you can see that we had 94 job applicants. And again, for the committee, I want you to know that these reports were all manual. In the last 4 years, we've been able to automate in order to make sure that we remove as much human error as possible. HR is a space that does so many different things that to not create efficiencies would create an incompetency of us being able to perform our jobs. And so again, with the vision of trying to be as effective as possible, this again is an automated report that now allows all of the departments to get the applications via online. It provides us the ability to create these automated reports. And so again, very, very useful processes. The new hire, you can see that the county board is on the new hire report and all the various other departments. It gives the county board the ability to see where the new hires are. There was a total of 22 new hires. And one of the things that I think as we move forward and we begin to have conversations of departments and best practices and efficiencies and attrition, I think it's important to understand all the human capital that sits in every department, understand if attrition would be the best conversation, or if replacement is the best conversation. But again, having business intelligence in order to make those decisions is part of the conversation. And then the termination report, as you can see, there's 13, and you can see where that occurred. And we move on to the big conversation of workman's comp. I won't go too deep diving in all these reports. I think it's best if, and again, Mr. Surgis, if you feel differently, I think it's important to give this information. And again, these are reports that also were created by CCMSI because we did not have any reports. So we didn't have business intelligence to drive the direction of making sure we were mitigating workman's comp and having a key player in HR to help with that across all the departments, and I will introduce her in a moment, is so important.
So for those board members that are new, we used the analogy a while back of shining a flashlight into the darkness. And in this particular case, that's exactly what we did for the work comp. Big omnibus bucket. Hey, it's work comp. Everybody's entitled to it. Everybody gets it. Okay, but there's ways to manage it and there's ways to set expectations. And we set out to change the culture where we brought on some additional claims and additional resources, some additional staff, Sylvia, relationships with department heads, just bringing to light. You realize where your claims are coming from and that comes from our pool of money, as again, similar to the health insurance, we have a self-insured retention amount that we're responsible for. And we are so happy to report that everything is trending in the right direction and moving smoothly. And work comp is typically looked at and analyzed in terms of frequency and severity. How big was the claim, or how many of them do you have? Because quite honestly, 100 small claims is just as bad as one big whopper claim. And so we want to manage that at the department level, specific to each department's needs, because somebody at the clerk's office might be different than somebody plowing snow, and we realize that. So, and then inherently, somebody at the juvenile correction center, detention center, and the jail, I'm not sure how we can manage that when there's, to some degree, it's a wild card there. It's not something that you can put a formula to. And I think we've done an outstanding job.
So if you look at page 24 quickly, you can see the last 3 policy periods, we descend towards lowering the incurring cost, and that is what you want to be aiming for. And if you move on to page 25, you can see the locations where most incidents occurred, to Cliff's point. And this is, certainly something you want to you would expect in this environment. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're working with the departments and that you're getting the incident reports and you're understanding what occurred in order for them to put into practice perhaps more safety awareness or training in those individual departments. I will say that, 4 years ago, when I came here, our process for receiving incidents was not consistent, and it is necessary and compliantly necessary to make sure that you get the documentation. It's also critically important that there's investigations that are occurring to confirm that this occurrence is documented appropriately. And those are responsibilities that supervisors and management must adhere to. And I can confidently say that all of the departments have, in the last 4 years, provided the documentation, and with the right staff, again, in HR, she reaches out if she sees information that is missing, or she'll reach out to build-in maintenance and say, here's an incident that occurred. We want to make sure that we don't have people falling on the ice, and we want to make sure that our parking lots are clean. And so when Cliff says that there's, a lot that occurs, I could probably spend an hour and a half just talking about just the few things that occur, not a lot.
But it's different on things that you can approach. I think an officer that gets punched in the nose, or an animal control supervisor who gets bit, I think those are inherent to the job. But if they slipped and fell in the parking lot because we didn't plow or salt, that's controllable on our part to some large degree on how we manage that. And I mean, everybody has bought in, and we can't say thank you enough because the impacts are tangible and quantifiable. So,
Which takes us to page 26, and again confirms what Mr. Surges said. As you can see, the cost for struck by or against, which is, the cause code, or assault, or slip and fall, or animal control. But again, the beauty of having business intelligence in order to mitigate, critically important. So,
well worth the investment.
yes. And then page 27 is the executive report for the last 4 years in chronological order. And I'm going to have to say that I don't really need to say anything to this. I think it speaks to itself.
Bates, could I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
To go back to that former slide, Mr. Sturgis, I agree with you that we do have, there are inherent problems to some of these jobs, but do we try to keep are we making process improvements to try to keep our officers from getting punched in the nose, or to try to keep our animal people from getting bit by a dog? Is that part of our ongoing process improvement?
Absolutely. Remember, our sheriff is on for all of 2 years now, but Sheriff Hain has, really embraced a relationship with Sylvia's department to say, give me the data and how can I improve this? And Ron has just been a breath of fresh air. I don't want to, blow wind up his skirt here, but honestly, he's come to the plate and said, what do we need to do to make this better, and enacted it.
And we have a monthly phone call with that department specifically, and our Workmans Comp TPA. We implemented that about 2 years ago. And so, yes, ma'am, your point is exactly right on. And we do, make sure we communicate with them and that they are aware of the occurrences in order for them to seek improvements in their training in order to.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thanks.
ma'am.
Okay.
Mavis, to answer your question, you would really have to look at where we were to where we are to appreciate the efforts.
Good.
If that makes
Awesome.
sense.
Thanks.
And on to page 28 again. Chronological order, you can see that it trends in a positive direction along with page 29. And the numbers speak for themselves. Page 30 as well. And then on to page 31. this is where we're at thus far. You kind of see a blank page because we haven't really done any settlements lately. And then page 32, Kane County claims closed and open and paid amounts from the time periods that you see. And as you can see, we really are working very hard at being a self-insured workman's comp. We are also looking we have a conference call tomorrow with our TPA because we're self-insured and our policy pays the employee from the county the first 30 days of if they had a workman's comp occurrence, and thereafter our insurance kicks in with CCMSI. What we recently are going to have a conversation on is, so if it is workman's comp and it is compensable, should we be being reimbursed for those 30 days? Again, I don't have the answers. There's a lot of moving pieces all the time in my head. But if there's something that I all of a sudden realize, oh my goodness, as I continue to learn in this space, it is my responsibility to reach out at least and gather the knowledge and understanding to make sure that I am doing the best for the county.
And again,
So-
TPA is third-party administrator. We seemingly have lots of those here at the county.
Before I move on to compliance, I would like to introduce my team. They are beyond exceptional. I wouldn't be able to do what I do on a daily basis without each and every one of them. And I especially want to give, can the team come up to the podium just really quick? I just want to introduce them. Jamie Labrillo, she oversees the workman's comp
You
and,
need to turn around and wave at the cameras there.
oh, look at the camera.
There you go.
That isn't all. I mean, she does this agenda. She does the unemployment, of which this year was overwhelming because of all the fraudulence that was occurring across North America. And excellent communicators, respectful, thoughtful contributors, and I get emotionally overwhelmed because they're amazing. And Christine Miller, I'm telling you, they're phenomenal. Without her, I don't think that you would see the success that you see with SmartBen, which is our benefits platform that was, in my 40 years of being a professional, the hardest project I have taken on. And I have implemented Oracle, I have implemented ADP. The limitations in our infrastructure with New World and the outcome that we were seeking to move to a automated platform was monumental. And the questions and the commitment of Christine in getting this completed, we wouldn't have been able to get 1,353 employees during open enrollment on 1/1/2021 we did not get one phone call from an employee that said, guess what? My paycheck benefit elections are wrong. The cost is wrong. My election is wrong. But you want to know why that happened? Because we didn't rely on the hope that it would be right. We manually went through every single employee's benefit elections prior to what they were electing to assure that we didn't see anything that was a big red flag.
Sylvia, my microphone cut out. I'm sorry. How many complaints did you have? Did you say that again?
None,
I'm sorry, none?
none.
1,350 employees.
Correct. Now, I will say that
Outstanding.
when the final payroll file was going to go through, payroll did recognize there were some individuals that maybe had elected pre and post. I have to assume that an employee elected what they elected. However, there were 60 that there was a pause, and Christine thoughtfully reached out to all of them to assure that that was what they wanted. And so we appreciate that payroll paused and said, look, inherently, these people usually elect this. And then Christine validated that. But I want to say that in parallel time of implementing this project, we were also auditing continually. And Christine, I can't thank you enough. So I want to also introduce Nancy McGarry. Nancy McGarry came into my department 4 years ago as a temp, and she has rotated across the county as a temp because she's a very thoughtful and willing to learn individual. And I recently hired her in my department as an HR coordinator because she is so organized and such a committed person in doing her work that, again, such a incredible, valuable part of our department. And I couldn't do it without each and every one of you.
Glad you
So
found a home here.
it's Jamie Labrillo, Christine Miller, and Nancy McGarry. Forgive me for my emotion, but you have done so much in this past year that I have to recognize you and let the board and this committee know who you are.
Bates here. May I ask a favor? Could the ladies please turn around again and introduce them
Because the
individually?
camera's there. You can't
It's
see it, but the
behind you.
camera's there.
Could you introduce them individually?
Yes, this is Jamie Labrillo
Jamie
Perfect.
Wave, thank you.
and Christine
Hi,
Miller.
Christine.
And I don't know if the camera can see you from there, Nancy, but
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
Got her.
this is
Yep.
Okay,
great.
and that's Nancy McGarry. And I really, and we're in the
Thank
middle
you.
of interviewing for our senior generalist that administers FMLA. The committee should know that we did not have a committed role for leaves and FMLA. And an organization as big as this, not having oversight specifically to their leaves and FMLA is not a good practice because you have to make sure that you're in compliance with federal regulations. And so we're in the middle of interviewing for that. We just haven't found the right candidate.
And board members, if you, I mean, you look at these nice individuals and they're dressed professional and they all look lovely. They are scarred from this process. Let me tell you that implementing this in the time frame that we had to do it, we stepped on each other's toes. We battled with other departments. We did what everybody said. You're never going to be able to get it done in that time frame. It's going to be a train wreck. This is the team that kept the cars on the tracks and cannot say enough, along with our other partners in IT and payroll. But it was not without butting heads, you know, but we got the job done. And if I can just put a plug out there, we use a product, the county uses a product called New World. And it's a software basis application that runs the county. Everything's tied into New World.
Payroll.
And I don't believe for a second that we utilize every module that's available to us. And as we begin to energize this module or institute this or ask this to be put in play, there's always going to be, I don't want to use the word disruption, but there's always going to be a challenge. How do we do that? It's change. Is it good change or bad change? I don't know. So far, we're going to continue to challenge to try and meet the needs and do it more professionally so that we're looking at reports rather than spending manual time entering data. And I think we're under the right track, but it's certainly not without a couple of bumps. And today is the day to celebrate and look back at the achievement and say, kudos, well done, yay. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. And we move on to compliance. So the sexual harassment training, the state of Illinois, the governor requires all organizations to make sure they are delivering sexual harassment training on an annual basis to all of their employees. You have to prove a best faith effort. I think for an organization as large as this, we had to really think outside the box, and we created the webinars that you see, and IT helped create a process where they would e-sign the forms and it would do a record keeping. And as you can see, we had 1,006 that completed it, and that is beyond best efforts. You will see it again if you haven't already, because we come back around the sun to do it again. And I want to go back to compliance. So the FFCRA, which was the COVID, FMLA, and sick leave programs, they terminated on 12/31 of 2020. So employees are not eligible for the COVID, sick leave, or FMLA. I don't know if under the new administration, if it will be reignited, but it is important, again, to stay to compliance across the entire county. And one of the challenges is communicating effectively to elected officials and directors so that when they're doing their payroll and when they're doing their leaves, they are adhering to what the practices are that are in place and not maybe sidestepping the compliance. And so that is, again, to piggyback on the importance of leave administration. That requires, running reports that often provide transparency to us that maybe there isn't compliance occurring and having to reach out. And so, again, we're here to assist and to help and to maintain compliance, but it is a lot of effort. And we have a staff of 3, we'll have a staff of 4. Best practices is, and I'm not saying that we're not crushing it, because we are, but it's 2.5 of a staff for 250 people in human resources. We will have a staff of 4. And we are crushing it, but that's why it's so important to put in automated processes and have business intelligence. Otherwise, the capacity to see what you have in front of you would probably not be realistic. So I'm just sharing a big shout out.
Bill, I'm going to need 5 minutes for executive session. If
Okay.
you can just,
Big shout out to my team.
absolutely, wonderful,
Okay.
wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, we have old business COVID-19 vaccine for employees. If I could summarize this, I believe I read the email from Michelle Neerman saying that we posed the question a few months ago, is it mandatory? Can we impose that? And I believe the answer is we cannot. It's just that simple. And please read the documentation. I'm not going to debate it. This is what the state's attorney came back, but we cannot mandate that the employees take the vaccine. Sylvia, am I fair on that?
That is absolutely correct, but I did reach out to the health department and they are putting together a strategy to make sure that they are marketing to our county employees and asking that they receive the vaccine. So there's a different approach. We can approach it in the fashion that we are making sure they're aware it's available and that it's accessible, and we encourage them to get the vaccine.
And for me personally, as a diabetic, I think everybody heard the story yesterday, but understanding that this is an RNA structure, not a DNA structure, that this is proteins, fats, salt, sugars that are being injected and not a version of the virus that's being injected. It's just, sometimes it's just education on what exactly, the program is and the vaccine is, that makes all the difference in the world. So if we can get that education out, I think you might find a percentage of people that were resistive to it, such as myself, more willing to accept that. So any questions on that at all?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mo.
Yeah, this is Mo. Yeah, regarding this vaccine thing, CDC came and have a guideline, and they say the employer can require the employees to take the vaccine. It was published in Chicago Tribune, and I have a copy of
Mo,
the,
if I could ask you to send that offline in an email to me, I will gladly get that directly to Michelle Neerman and let her respond.
So
Okay, sure, yeah.
I didn't read that article,
I did
but,
not read that article.
but I'm going to make the assumption that it might be for certain workers in certain industries. But, that would be my assumption on that, but I'd be interested
Much
to
of a hot
receive that.
potato for me. Let Michelle respond to it for us in comment.
Yeah.
But Mo, thank you so much for that. I think that, again, if everybody takes a little bit of knowledge and brings it to the table, we're much better off. So anybody else on that?
Is there a plan that our health department will have doses available for employees?
It is my understanding that the answer to that is yes, but I don't have anything to share in reference to that.
Wanted to put that in an email to me as well. I can get that to Jared in the health department and see what we can do. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, if there's nothing else, do we have anything for new business? I do not. Okay.
No, sir.
Motion to accept reports to be placed on file, Mr. Kenyon and Mr. Davist.
Davis, second.
I believe that's a roll call.
Allen,
Alan, aye.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon.
Kenyon, yes.
That passes. Thank you. I would like 5 minutes in executive session, and I invite every board member that's either online or in the house just to stay on for a minute. And especially is Dale our new finance chair? Correct?
Yes.
Dale, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, Mike, could you motion for executive
Yes.
session?
I moved.
Okay, Mark, seconds.
Davis, second.
Okay, Blair, how do we do this? I'm fine just talking, but you just say it's executive.
Yeah, it will just take us a moment to get everything in line. For those that are online, you will be invited to an executive session. Please accept that because we won't be able to move forward until everybody accepts that invitation. And then we will work our way into that. So please have some patience and pay attention to your screen.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a roll call?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We need, yes, Deb Allen, thank you.
No problem.
Roll call that session.
Allen,
Alan,
I said I could do it.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon.
Kenyon, yes.
Okay.
Okay, if we could call the meeting back to order.
Rorschach.
Mike, we have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kenyon?
So moved.
Second by Mr. Davis.
Second, yeah.
All in favor there?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Greatly appreciated.